This one is going to be a quick video on what we call multiple response questions. You've already learned how to create a question slide in the Keypoint Basics tutorial. That question allowed participants to select a single answer, but sometimes you need to ask questions that allow them to choose all of the following that apply, or their top three, etc. This functionality isn't supported by every keypad style, so if your keypad can only send a single vote, you won't see the multiple response option on the question submenu. To get started, I'm just going to work with the presentation from the basics video. However, I'm going to change up how we're asking this question that's on slide number 3. For the sake of the tutorial, I'm just going to delete the slide and start from scratch by inserting a multiple response question slide from the submenu under the Questions button on the Keypoint tab. I just need to fill in the title, the question text, and my choices. Now, by default, Keypoint is still only going to let participants choose one option. We change that up here on the Keypoint tab. The setting called Selections Allowed is how we control how many different responses participants can send. In this case, we'll let them pick all 4 if they want to, even though that would be incorrect. Speaking of correct answers, I can also choose all 3 of those here. Notice that this question type doesn't have a chart on the same slide. That can be added by selecting the standard chart object from the Advanced submenu under the Chart button. Obviously, it would need to be resized, and we could add it to the PowerPoint animation sequence as well. However, it would make this slide very busy, so I'm just going to delete it and insert a standard chart slide instead. That way we can view the results on the next slide. I'll just copy and paste the question text into the title, and then this one should be all set. Let's take a look at a little different usage for multiple responses. I'm going to create another multi-response question slide, but this time it's going to be a more survey-oriented question. I'll need several options to choose from here. Okay, that's enough for this one. The text got a little small, so I can use PowerPoint to actually break it into columns for me. There, that looks a little better. Back over to Keypoint, I'm going to set the selections allowed to 3 because this time I only want them to pick their top 3. Now to chart the results. Instead of a bar chart, I'm going with a top choices list slide. This is on the Advanced submenu under the Chart button. By default, this is showing the percentage of audience members that selected each item. If I wanted to show how many votes each item received, I can do that by selecting the chart and switching it from percentage to count up here on the Keypoint tab. Okay, let's get into the slideshow to see what these look like with some data. I'm going to let Keypoint do the voting again by enabling the polling simulation like I did in the previous video, because these will look a lot better with a wider range of responses than I can generate with the handful of keypads I have in front of me. You can see that Keypoint's voting for my 100 simulated attendees, and this chart is all over the map because simulated voters never listen to my lectures. Let's see which animals they prefer. Great, we've got some data here, but I do see one thing I'd like to change with the formatting. I can use columns here, just like I did in choices, to spread things out a bit and make it more readable. Hopefully everything is making sense so far, because I'm about to dive into a slightly more advanced concept. What if we wanted them to choose their top 3, but do so in order of preference? Well, that's easy to do. This is actually handled by the top choices list, and the question settings don't need to change at all. Select the list, and then enable the Prioritize option up here on the Keypoint tab. The items may shuffle around a bit because it's no longer based just on how many votes each animal received, but now the order in which they were selected also has influence. The math works like this. If there are 3 selections allowed, then the first item they choose receives 3 votes, the second item 2 votes, and the last item 1. If there were 5 selections allowed, then the first selection would receive 5, the next one 4, and so forth. This gives weight to the order in which the participants make their selections. Now, so far, I've shown a list with 10 choices, and I've shown the results of all 10. But if I only wanted to identify the top 5, I could edit the number to display on the Keypoint tab here to show 1 to 5 instead of 1 to 10. Notice that these lists can be linked to questions and filtered by groups, just like the bar graph examples in the previous videos. All right. I think that's enough for this video. We're starting to get into some more advanced functionality, and that makes it hard to provide specific examples. Because Keypoint is so flexible, each of you probably have slightly different usage scenarios. Please get in touch with us if you have any questions. And don't forget to check out the other videos in this series. Thank you for watching.